Industry on Parade. Peabody Award winner for public service, produced on film each week by the National Association of Manufacturers.
To a medical center for a routine checkup comes one of the millions of Americans who are living longer, working longer, and enjoying more their years of retirement, thanks to our medical profession, our pharmaceutical companies, and industry generally. Industry has helped make the golden years more than just a phrase by investing in scores of research projects like the one in progress here. Projects aimed at solving the riddles of cancer, arthritis, and other degenerative diseases. Some manufacturers are engaged in research aimed at exposing the very secrets of life processes through work with chemicals believed to help control the functions of living cells. And many firms are searching constantly in treating the disease. This technician is engaged in a quest for new sources of cortisol. From all parts of the world, plants and other materials are brought to the laboratories of the Upjohn Company for testing with the help of fabulous machines that can perform in minutes chemical analyses that once took weeks or months. This device can do the routine work of 4 chemists without fatigue or chance of error 24 hours a day. Baby chicks also play a role in the pharmaceutical industry's assault on diseases that affect the elderly. From the time they're hatched, these chicks are fed closely controlled diets, their weight measured regularly in experiments aimed at learning the effects of nutrition. In the course of the project, the birds add much to our knowledge about such things as cholesterol in the bloodstream, the fatty substance that can block arteries. We learn how to control it through diet. From such industrial research come the drugs and the medicines that lengthen life. And from industry comes leadership in solving the problem of how best to use and enjoy the added years. For some of the increasing numbers of those past 65, special skills enable them to work well into their golden years, often skills learned long ago and still useful today. Like many oldsters, Cliff Fletcher, here splitting hand-ribbon shingles or shakes, was able to respond when renewed interest in restoration of historic buildings brought a call for the special art he learned years ago from pioneers who were old themselves when he was a boy. The special skill that kept Charles Kelly occupied well into his 80s is violin making. Self-taught, he turned out fine fiddles for more than 60 years, along with furniture for which he won regional fame. In the making of saddles, too, the skill of long experience often proves more valuable than the strength of youth. And this man, who's been practicing his art for half a century and more, finds it keeps him on the go long after many have stopped working altogether. The increasing popularity of the rodeo accounts for many of the new orders for fine saddles turned out by older master craftsmen. In Delavan, Wisconsin, meet another man for whom advancing years were no problem. George W. Borg, at the left, inspecting a new knitting machine, developed the first workable automobile clutch back in 1910 and never stopped inventing. It was during World War II, in fact, when Borg was at an age when most men would be looking forward to retirement, that he branched out into an entirely new line, developing the machines we see here for the production of synthetic fur. The product of Borg's special genius is a fabric originally intended to be used almost entirely in buffers. But it found a much bigger market than that, in paint rollers, clothing, and toys. And today, the big, new Borg Corporation plant can barely keep up with the demand for the material. The vigorous, talented Mr. Borg retained responsibility for all phases of the operations at the company he formed at a time when he might have been thinking of retirement. In his 90s, industrialist Charles Schlegel also looked ahead. Though his newly planted nut orchard wouldn't start producing for 15 years, he planted anyhow, confident that he'd be around to take part in the first harvest. And at the same time, as always, he was equally optimistic about the future of his business, envisioning new factory facilities. Mr. Schlegel's company started more than 70 years ago making hem bindings to keep women's skirts from fraying as they dragged along the ground. Then, keeping pace with the times, he turned to fringe for surrey tops, school book straps, and later automobile insulation. It's progress that paid off for a man always eager to change everything but the motto on his wall.
Part of the same story, but quite a different part, concerns those older Americans without special skills, without the special genius we have seen. Most workers prefer, as this one did, to stop working sometime in their 60s. But what then? Must retirement be a round of errands invented just to keep busy? No, this is a picture found far less frequently these days because industry has moved boldly to do something about it. Throughout industry, for example, there are many companies that help employees start preparing for retirement early by encouraging and helping them to make the financial arrangements that will help bring freedom from money problems. In addition to company contributions to pension funds and Social Security, firms like the Sun Oil Company seek wide employee ownership of the company itself, both to make it a better company and to provide a nest egg for the future. The firm puts up 50 cents for every dollar invested by a worker in the company's stock, up to 10% of his wages, and providing that he hold his shares for 5 years. Today's veteran of industry also gets a boost toward happier retirement from company counselors who, several years before the actual event, give pre-retirement interviews encouraging employees to plan for and to look forward to their leisure years. And here at the Allis-Chalmers Manufacturing Company, the program includes activities that extend beyond retirement. Among them are meetings of old-timers who would find it difficult to break the deep ties with the offices and shops in which they spent so many working years. Although the company doesn't try to administer in any way the activities of its retired employees, it does help them get together to relive the old days and keep filled the days ahead. For men who plan for retirement instead of fighting it, friendly reminiscence is high on the list of pleasures. A list that also includes such diverse hobbies as the crossbreeding of roses to develop new types. This is a painstaking project requiring endless patience and many seasons. Commodities abundant to the man who enters retirement with physical and mental equipment adequate to cope with the abrupt change in his routine. The man who just never could find the time for the hobby he always loved now enjoys it to the full. A more unusual hobby, and one that developed into a most satisfying career, is painting on cobwebs as practiced by Mrs. Anna Clopton. Done on the thin, gauze-like webs of small, brown grass spiders, her pictures require many days to complete, and they have won her lasting fame as something of a celebrity in the region around Huntsville, Alabama, where she created this form of art. At the beginning, Mrs. Clopton thought she was simply following the lead of a German artist she had read about. But years later, she learned the German had painted on masses of cobwebs half an inch thick. Only then did she realize she had developed, all by herself, a type of painting that was entirely original. Many retired men and women can be found in hospital wards, not as patients, but as volunteers. They devote their time to brightening the lives of others, contributing services this children's ward, for example, might not otherwise be able to offer. The pleasure a man gives to others is doubly a pleasure to him. For many, there is little happiness in retirement without a chance to continue to use the experience and skills they acquired on the job. And for such persons, there are organizations like the Mohawk Development Service of Schenectady. With the help of active businessmen, a group of over 65s organized the service to offer their design and engineering talents to industry. Soon the orders flowed in, proof to these men that they're still needed by an expanding, dynamic economy. In our schools, the need for the wisdom of those of advanced years is especially great. Here, the increasing ranks of the younger generation and the ranks of the oldest, also increasing at a record rate, often serve each other. The older teachers helping ease the shortage of qualified instructors while finding real fulfillment in their contact with the scholars who will guide the nation in years to come.
This closeness of interest linking the very young and the very old is even more in evidence in a toy factory in Roselle Park, New Jersey. Here, Childhood Interests Incorporated, which specializes in toys to amuse and help develop infants and preschoolers, also specializes in giving useful work to grandmothers and grandfathers. The firm was organized by a man who had already retired from one successful business and who decided that if he could start a new career, his contemporaries would make good partners. While industry finds most older people look forward to retirement leisure when encouraged to plan for it, it also finds that there are those who want to go on working and who are equal or sometimes even superior to the younger generation in many ways, especially in steadiness of application. Industrial leaders tell us attitude and mental and physical alertness are factors more important than the specific age attained. At 70, a man can sometimes be a better worker than he was at 45. And at 80, he's bound to get a warm birthday celebration here at the plant, where grandparents get an extra sense of satisfaction from making toys that are sound, safe, and educational. In homes all over America, as in that of the grandmother we saw at work earlier, the younger set gets a better start in life when it has the companionship of older citizens who know that they're needed, useful members of their families and of their communities.
American industry, builder of a better tomorrow, has presented Industry on Parade, a service of the National Association of Manufacturers.